Okay, today we are going to discuss Monopoly, Chapter 11, Monopoly and Monopolistic Competition. So the difference between perfect competition and monopoly is that for the in the long run, competitive firms will make zero economic profits. But for monopoly, uh, in the short run, they may have a loss, but in the long run, their profits must be non-negative, so that is greater than or equal to zero. And the other case is monopolistic competition. So whenever the market come with the term competition, it means that firms are free to enter or exit the market. So because of this characteristic, the economic profit is zero. So perfect competition and monopolistic competition, in the long run, the profit is zero because of the free entry and free exit. Okay, let's move on. So the primary sources of monopoly power, which may include both structural and strategic barrier to entry. Uh, this is a general term. So, for example, if we look at the production of semiconductors, we all know that, and we are all proud of TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. It is the pride of our free enterprise spirits because for the whole world, probably two-thirds of the semiconductor products come from Taiwan, and one of the major firm is TSMC. So you may wonder because America, US, is such a powerful country in terms of technology, economy, resources, and everything, But why they are not able to find someone that or some company that can produce semiconductors? There are several reasons, to focus on manufacturing probably is one of the major professions and major contributions of Taiwanese. And to get all the materials and to produce uh, semiconductors actually is not easy. For example, sometimes we call fab. Fab is fabricate the fabrication of the materials. I mean, here I mean semiconductors. It takes a lot of energy. I mean, you need to have tremendous management skills. So, as the saying goes, Rome is not built in one day. The same thing, TSMC is not built in one day. They have accumulated a lot of knowledge and experiences in manufacturing all these things. So it's not easy that you're gonna just follow a manual or a formula, then you can do it. So that's one thing. The other is that uh, it takes a lot of money to build a factory, and not just build a factory. You also need to have a lot of engineers to come with that. So probably most of you know that United States asks TSMC to invest in the U.S. and build factories in Arizona. Quite frankly, uh, it is not that, as we have told you before, the concept of returns to scale. Returns to scale can be increasing, decreasing, or constant. Um, at this point, okay, it is not that you can copy the experience of the uh, TSMC and move it out of Taiwan and go to the US, and then you can get another TSMC. No way. No, this is quite different. because the cost structures, a lot of things, and because of that, actually, not many firms can imitate or follow example of TSMC. For example, there's another company called Intel, right? So, as you know, the heart of a computer, of a notebook, comes from Intel, the CPU. But even though they have so much capital, money, resources, engineers, still they cannot compete with TSMC. So anyway, this is just a brief story about uh, why sometimes we have a monopoly because of the structural and strategic barriers. And as a matter of fact, there are many things to that. The second point, how the monopoly sets its profit, maximizing output and price, and how to measure the degree of monopoly power in an industry. So, because at this point I don't have a blackboard, so it is a little bit difficult to elaborate all this. But when we discuss perfect competition, we talk about it several times. For a monopoly, okay, they look at the demand in a different way. And for a perfect competition, when they face demand, even though the market demand can be downward sloping, but because everyone is a price taker, so the demand curve they face, okay, for individual firm is actually a horizontal line, and so that is uh, elasticity demand is infinite because they are price taker. So when they choose the profit maximizing output, it has to be P is equal to MC. Okay, P is equal to MC, and in that way they can find their output level and then to supply to the market. But for a monopolist, it is different because there's only one firm. They can set a price they like. But at this point, I want to remind you, they can set a price they like, but they cannot set whatever price they want. That's different because um, still people only have limited income. They have only limited amount to spend on something, and so if a monopolist want to sell more units, want to get more revenue, they have to lower down the price. Okay, so the good example for you is HSR, high speed rail. So as you know, the train has uh, 12 cars, and if HSR want to fill the cars with people, they will necessarily the more tickets they sell and they want to attract more people to take it, then they have to lower down the price. So for regular adults, the price is of course a regular price. But if they want to entice some, just like you, college students without much income to take HSR, what are they going to do? They have to lower down the price, right? But usually, the time is not quite convenient. For example, early morning or late into the midnight. But that's the way they can fill the cars with people and get more revenue out of it. So even though they can set a price, okay, but it's not quite the way they would like to have because they have to compete with the pockets of consumers. Okay, the third part, the impact of monopoly power on economic efficiency. So oftentimes, if we compare perfect competition and monopoly, you know that uh, monopoly tends to charge more and produce less. So because of that, consumer surplus is much less than perfect competition. And we say perfect competitive firms, they produce at P is equal to LMC is equal to LAC. So that means the production is efficient because it is at the lowest level of LAC long-term average cost. But it won't be the case for monopoly because they produce a little bit less. Okay, the fourth part is about the model of monopolistic competition. So, monopoly, mono means one, poly means to sell. So, monopoly means there's only one person to sell. But monopolistic competition, it because of the term competition, as we have told you before, there the market is for free entry and exit. But somehow, uh, in this case, the producers, they are producing products that is not homogeneous, that is not the same thing, and so because of that, they would have different kind of uh, production level and different kind of consideration when they're going to choose the optimal output. And when we get to monopolistic competition, we will talk about what kind of firms or what kind of industry monopolistic competition is. Let's move on. So monopoly is a market with only one seller. Okay. Uh, so it really depends on how you gonna describe if something, okay, is really one seller. Okay, so let us say, as we just have one example, HSR, high speed rail. You may say high speed rail is a monopoly, but is it really the case? So here, the textbooks say there are no close substitute products. Okay, so if you look at HSR, is there any substitute for HSR? So, okay, 张志伟.
哎，是，
Hi. So, is there any substitute for high-speed rail? Hello.
呃，
So first, what is high-speed rail?
高铁嘛，
Okay, exactly. And so, is there any substitute for HSL?
我不知道哎，
Okay. Wang Ziqi, any substitute for HSL?
不知道。
Why not? Yu Yuan, any substitute for HSL? Yu Yuan,
はい。
hey, any substitute for HSR?
不知道。
Okay, Chen Xizai.
Hey,
So any substitute for HSR. For example, if you want to go from Kaohsiung to Taipei, how many ways you can do it?
火车和
Okay,
高铁
good. So that's a substitute, right? And
客运
train. So what else?
巴士
Okay. What else?
走路
You must be kidding. Okay, anyway, it works. Okay. What else? Ride a
开车
motorcycle, right? Drive on your own. Okay. Or ride a bicycle, right? So here, the point is no close substitute. So when you know, you mentioned a lot of things. You can take a train, you can take a bus, but if you want to go from Kaohsiung to Taiwan in 2 hours, can you do that with car, with bus, with train? The answer is no. Okay, so whether something, some industry is a monopoly, it really depends on how you define close substitute. Okay, so for example, um, you know, some people they are chain smokers, so smoke a lot of cigarettes. But if you look at cigarettes, actually you have a lot of substitutes, right? You have, you know, the Taiwan cigarettes, you have Japanese tobacco, a lot of things. But if you focus on, you know, when you put it in a broad category, okay, broad category, then uh, it's it will be hard to find a substitute. But if you look at specific things, then there could be some substitute. Okay, monopolist, the only seller in a monopoly market. Okay, we say mono means one. Okay, and barrier to entry. So in Taiwan, if you want to get another HSR, is it possible? The answer is, I would say no, because first of all, you need a lot of land to build HSR, and secondly, there is, you know, just a limited market. Oh, just like Taiwan, if you have first highway, right, highway 1, and then you have highway 3, so you're gonna have highway 5. The point is that there is no such a big market. Okay, so barrier to entry. Just a few minutes ago, we used TSMC as an example because if you want to build a factory, actually it costs hundreds of billions of dollars. Not to mention that the technology you need to have, and also the manpower, the engineers, and the experiences, all these things. Okay, let's move on. The textbook is a little bit get into details about the barriers to entry. Okay, so first of all, you have entry barriers, the best elements of market structure that may act to deter entry. First of all, economy of scale, absolute cost advantages, high capital cost requirements, production differentiation. So first of all, economies of scale. So let us say, you know, Taiwan, some public utilities companies, you know, it is run by the state, means is owned by the government. So for example, power, we have Thai Power, and water, okay, because it has economies of scale. So, Wang Xiuwei, hello.
怎么了？
Question to you. So what's economies of scale?
规模经济，
Okay, so what does that mean?
厂商在那个 LAC 的最低点生产嘛，
So if production level goes up, what happens to cost?
最低成本最低。
Q goes up, LAC goes down, right?
Yes.
That's the definition of economies of scale, right? Okay, so let us say in Taiwan, in southern Taiwan, we have a nuclear power plant. So that means, we know with just one power plant, it can generate a lot of power. And so basically, that means you need only one plant to serve a whole area. Okay. And so it can take additional customers to provide electricity services, but then the average cost keeps going down. Okay, so economies of scale is important. So if you build a big dam, okay, for example, in Tainan, you have Wusantou Dam, okay, and in probably around Jiayi, right, that you have Zhengwen Dam. And so all these dams, just one, okay, you can provide a lot of consumers with good quality of water. Okay. The second part, absolute cost advantages. So, for example, the production of diamond, okay, and oil. So, for all these things, we know that oil producer most located in Middle East, and of course, Russia has a lot of oil and natural gas too. It is based on the absolute cost advantages. And for TSMC, it is a high capital cost requirements, okay, because as we just discussed, for the production of semiconductors, you need a lot of capital. And production differentiation, we just leave it there. But you see, for the whole world, before 1980s, we only have one major commercial airplane producer, that's Boeing. And only after 1990s, we have Boeing and Airbus. And the emergence of Airbus, actually, it is due to a lot of financial support from some European governments like Britain, Great Britain, France, Germany, and Spain. So anyway, the second part, strategic entry barriers. So market conduct by established firms aimed specifically at reducing the probability of entry. So there are many stories about this, but we're gonna look at this from a different angle. So 卢佑祥，卢佑祥，卢佑祥 here.
哎，
Hello,
在
卢佑祥。
哎，
Okay. I forgot what I want to say. Anyway, strategic barriers. Anyway, okay, I found it. Liu Xiang, what do you use to browse the internet?
啊，
What do you use to browse the internet? So you want to check something on the internet. What kind of program do you use?
哎
Google Chrome
，Yeah，
or IE
Google Chrome，
Google Chrome. What else? What else is available?
我只用 Google。
What about Microsoft?
哎，
What's that called?
也会用，电脑会用。
It's called Edge, right?
Yeah.
And you also have Firefox. Okay. Anyway, when the internet was available in 1990s, okay, there's a firm, providing these kind of services. It's called Netscape. When you want to browse the internet, you need to have a program, and Netscape offer people at 19.99 per copy. Okay, so basically, they sort of like a monopoly. Okay, but you know that the internet is there. Okay, and the environment and what kind of programs that you need to serve the internet is also there. So people sooner or later can find something else. But there's one firm called Microsoft. They want to grab the whole market. Okay, so they get their own internet browser. It's called IE. Okay, Internet Explorer. And in this case, they get to the market and they want to beat Netscape. And the competition is really intense. And the strategy that Microsoft have is to kind of swarm the market because they offer IE for free. Because of that, Netscape was badly beaten. So anyway, and because of that, right? Because Microsoft offer their IE for free, and for anyone else, if their marginal cost is not zero, they have no way to compete with Microsoft. So this is called strategic entry barriers. We look at from a different direction. Microsoft is really cunning, okay, because their pricing strategy. Can you see anyone else to compete with Microsoft? The answer is no. But for consumers, it sounds like a good story, okay, because for each and every of us, none need to pay any price for the internet browser. So anyway, the third one, government impose entry barriers. Okay, it's by law. Okay, it's by law. 金正达 here.
嗨，
Can you mail later at 7-Eleven? Can you mail a letter at 7-Eleven?
no，哎
Yes or no?
，no 吧，
Why?
我没寄过。
It's because of the law. If you want to mail a letter, it has to be through post office. But can you mail a packet at 7-Eleven?
Yes，
Right? Why? Because there is no such monopoly. Okay? And for all of us, if you have money and you need better security, you can hire a security guard. But can you have a police force? Can you have a military force? The answer is no, because it is by law. Okay, the military force, the police, all belong to the government. Okay. 郑怡里
在。
Okay, good. Can you copy the textbook we use for this class? Can you?
Copy the text?
Yeah, can you copy the textbooks?
No.
Why not?
有版
Right,
这个
copyright. Okay, copyright. So it's kind of interesting, right? You cannot copy any book, right? Because the rights are reserved for the authors. Okay, so even though it's copyright for the author, copy is not right. Okay, so there are a lot of issues. 郑怡玲, why some medication is so expensive?
再讲一次。
For example, some drugs to deal with cancers are very expensive. Why?
因为有些要有专利权。
Right, exactly. That's patent. It's the same thing with copyright. Patent, P-A-T-E-N-T, patent. The same thing like copyright. It just used on different products. So Taiwanese are really good at producing things, but in terms of design and to invent is a different story. So, for example, Taiwan produced a lot of DVDs, CDs, and also Blu-rays. But when Taiwanese company produce all these products, they have to pay royalty, the same thing as copyright and patent to some company, and that company is Philips, because they have the copyright of these DVDs, Blu-rays, CDs. Okay, let's move on. The last one, minimum efficient scale. the smallest level of output for which long-run average cost is at its minimum. So, as a matter of fact, this idea is similar to economies of scale. So basically, it means that you build a dam, you build a power plant. As a matter of fact, it can supply a lot of electricity, supply a lot of water, and before it to get to the point that average cost is going to go up. Okay, so MES. Okay, so basically, this is about economies of scale and also, as we say, minimum efficient scale. So basically, that's like this. Okay, you have a whole range that the average cost is very low. Okay, so different demand curves in relation to long run average cost curves. So in this case, the minimum efficient scale MES, okay, the demand is not quite there, okay, and you look at the diagram B, you can see that that's totally a different issue because in this case, okay, for the diagram B, okay, as a matter of fact, a firm, can expand its production level, expand its capacity, and to satisfy the market. And while for the first case, diagram A, the market is not as big. Okay, and if you look at C, okay, so economy scale is not a significant barrier because you can expand the market a lot. Okay, because you see the demand curve D3 is so all in the right direction, and so as a matter of fact, you can have many firms. And here, suppose you have a cost advantage. For example, here you have a entrant, a new company. If the cost is $12 per unit, and if the incumbent, so that is the one that is already in the market, if the cost is $10 per unit, then you see the one with $12 per unit cannot compete with the one with $10 per unit. So let us look at the oil production. Okay. 叶一方 Hi. So, do you know which country has the lowest production cost for oil?
I don't know.
Would you like to guess?
Dubai.
Dubai. Not quite. Saudi Arabia. And so, because of the cost advantage, as far as I can tell, I remember I read a report that their production cost is about $10 per barrel. And at this point, the price is about $100 per barrel, right? So who can compete with Saudi Arabia? And also, here we can talk a little bit about strategy. So when the price is high, of course, everyone is happy with it. But suppose some countries want to undersell Saudi Arabia or want to grab a market share from Saudi Arabia, really there's no way for it because Saudi Arabia can flood the market. When I say flood, okay, flood means a lot of water, but here flood means produce a lot of oil, okay, to push the price down. And of course, the one with higher cost gonna be pushed out of the market, and then the market gonna be exclusive for Saudi Arabia. So I have an example here. In the US, there are two retail stores and quite famous. One is called Kmart. The other is called Walmart. Okay. And Kmart is the small guy. So it has less economy of scale and with higher cost structure. And Walmart, of course, they are the big guys, and they have, because the store is so big, so they can enjoy economies of scale. And so, in the town that I stay in the U.S., there are two markets. There are two stores. One is Kmart, and one is Walmart. And so, because of the competition there, Walmart tried to use low price to squeeze out Kmart. And finally, because the cost just too high for Kmart, they are not able to compete with Walmart. And so finally, Walmart was driven out of the market, and only one producer left. So that's Walmart. And after Walmart beat out Kmart, they increased the price. So anyway, so because of that, governments usually have to have some regulation over monopoly because they don't like the monopolist to charge a price too high and produce them at a level that's too low. It's going to hurt the society. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so here 11.1a application, Microsoft's absolute cost advantage. So that's the story that I just told you about the competition between IE and Netscape. And here is another example. So Microsoft's market power is derived in large part from an absolute cost advantage. And probably not many of you know what's MS-DOS. Okay, probably 谢信佑 will know something. 谢信佑 Hello?
可以再说一次吗？
哎，谢信佑 what is MS-DOS?
No idea.
Really? You have no idea what's MS-DOS? 洪凯轩 what's MS-DOS?
不知道
洪凯轩
不知道
Hello， 洪凯轩
不知道
Really? 高嘉燕 MS-DOS 高嘉燕
不知道。
Farah 林玉祥张志伟 What is MS-DOS?
一套系统是不是？
Yes, exactly. So MS means Microsoft, DOS, Disk Operation System. So it's just like what we have now. We have Windows, right? We have what's they call Android, right? Is an operation system, but at that time it's about 1980s. So the computer we have is called PC, usually IBM PC because it was invented by IBM. And MS-DOS, for the computer you use, you need to have software, and so it is my MS-DOS. And so they have such a big market, and of course they a whole bunch of engineers. So sooner or later, because of that, they can be a monopoly in the market. And because of that, in 1990s, Microsoft has been sued by many companies for their monopolistic behavior. And that's what we call price gouging. 张志伟 what's price gouging? Price gouging.
什么意思啊？
Right, that's my question. What is price gouging? So, because they are monopoly, so they can charge a higher price than usual. And so, what's that called? Price gouging.
我不知道。高怎么拼？
Gouging.
哄抬。
Right, exactly. Okay, let's move on. So, high capital cost requirements. Okay, capital markets. So this is part of the issues we talk about TSMC. if you read the newspaper this year alone, TSMC probably have to raise the debt. They issue bonds, okay? They issue bonds for hundreds of billions of dollars. That's probably NT, not US dollars. But as a matter of fact, you see, TSMC has so much money. They have a lot of capital, but still, they need to issue bonds to get all the investment done. Okay. So capital markets, out of the markets for obtaining investment funds such as stock market, the bond market, and banks and other lending institutions. So in this case, TSMC, because of their good credit, so they can issue bonds. Okay. The second part, transaction cost, the cost of gathering information and using a market to make a transaction. This is a little bit difficult to elaborate, but so let us say, if you want to produce semiconductors, okay, so what's going to happen? You need to have a lot of patents, and this happen in LED and OLED. If you look at cell phone, probably that's one good example too. Okay, 王之奇,
Hey,
what is cell phone?
cell phone 手机
Right. So if you remember, Apple and Samsung, and even 2 years ago, HTC, all these cell phone companies have engaged in a lot of lawsuits because certain productions will have to have some knowledge, and this knowledge actually is exclusive. They have patents or they have copyright, and so because of that, really it's not an easy job. So for people to, if you want to produce something, then you can do it. So that's really not the case. Okay, let's move to the last part. Product differentiation is an advertising to sales ratio. So in this case, probably you know a lot about advertisement. It is an important thing. So for example, everyone knows Apple has good smartphones, and because of course the design is good, and the interface is user friendly, but there are also the advertisement they have engaged. Okay, so here he said the ratio of the firm's advertising expenditure to sales, a common measure of the intensity of a firm's advertising. So really, I've told you several times when we talk about perfect competition, when you have a lot of advertisement, okay, spending, it means it is the company want to convince you its product is not the same with the others. Okay, so as a matter of fact, if you see a lot of advertisement, a lot of commercials, really that is not perfect competition. That is, they try to tell you that their products are different from others. So really, they are trying to get monopoly power and to get a better price for their products. Okay, it is about time, so let's take a break.